If you have any desire to live or move or temporarily stay in Bali, Indonesia, you're going to want to watch this video. This is my official review as someone who has visited 44 times in the last decade. And I would come here solo every few months. It was easier when I was a travel blogger because the brands would just send me to another country. They would send me to the country of the campaign, and then they would ask me, where is home? Where do we fly you back? And I always said Bali. So I racked up many visits. I have stayed at over 200 villas. I've had so many experiences here, dealt with bureaucracy, all the things. I have three Balinese numbers. But overall, here is what makes Bali an irresistible place and why so many people flock to this island, why it's overcrowded, and how you can come here mindfully as well. So first, you must learn the basics of the language. In another video where I talked about, the cost of living in Bali, I did kind of like a language breakdown, but here's the ethics and the reasoning behind learning the basics of the language. When you have lived all your life operating one way, seeing one group of people, and then all of a sudden there is this influx of cultures, people, to everyone coming and doing whatever they want in your hometown, in your home island. Um, it's very easy for all of them to be grouped as, yeah, like it's very easy for tourists to get a bad reputation on this island because so many of them have been so disrespectful. So it's my goal that when I encourage people to come to Bali, I'm encouraging the right type of person to come to Bali with the right type of mindset. The person that will learn at least 10 words of the local language, the person that understands why, you know, if there's a road blocked off for a ceremony, don't make a fuss about it. Change your plans and go a different route. The person that's never ridden a motorbike, you don't need one. There's so many drivers here that can take you and it can declog the roads. So stuff like that. Okay. So overall, I think what makes Bali such an irresistible destination is a lot of what Western, the West, ugh, a lot of what the Western world thrives in, this individualistic, capitalistic, I don't know, just money hungry, greed driven culture. On one hand, it's breeding grounds for entrepreneurship. On the other, it turns us into people that don't talk to each other, don't greet each other, don't smile at each other. And I know my solo travels, they are so much, they never actually feel solo. That's the reality. You might come here by yourself, but you have a Made, a Wayan, a Nyoman, a Putu, yeah, a Katut. You have someone at every corner that is checking on you, greeting you. It's just a part of your village. So any villa, because I rotate neighborhoods, so I try to stay at a different villa once a week. That might sound exhausting to you, and that's okay. I love the feeling of, even through these videos, you're seeing different types of scenery. I love that feeling of just switching up my day to day. And I think there's something to be said about the novelty and the newness of like, where am I today? And what's my view this morning? Or what will my view be this week? It is a very ADHD thing, but I absolutely love it. So with every villa that I go to and every neighborhood that I stay in, I definitely heard a click. Listen, the geckos here, the geckos are harmless. The geckos eat the mosquitoes. Nonetheless, they still are not human, and I don't enjoy animals. Okay, so every place that I have, I will always hire like a chef. I will always have a driver. Always have a cleaning person and a massage therapist. So just like that, that's four people that are not just being paid by the villa, but they're being paid by me. And of course, generously tipping 50 to 100%. You just give them, because here's the thing, what you think a massage is worth, what a massage is priced as in the US and then what is charged here. it feels stupid. You're not going to pay anyone $5 for a massage. It might be the price, but I'm not going to just pay 5. I'm going to 100% tip that. And so I don't know, depending on your budget, it might not be something that you want to do, but I don't pay based on their prices. I pay based on what I feel they deserve. So my people are well taken care of. And I try to come with this generous mentality, not to, you know, breed corruption, because Indonesians are not corrupt people. The US is more corrupt than Indonesia. Government is always going to be a different story. But you will see that even in whatever it is that they're charging. There is no expectation for tip. And I think in the US culture, because tipping culture is so embedded in how we operate with service workers, and it just, yeah, whether you get good service or not, you feel obligated to tip because you know that waitresses don't make much and all that kind of stuff. But here it's like you are so excited to tip. You are so happy to pay them what they deserve. So I just feel supported. I feel like I can rest. And then when you speak some words of the language, you can actually Indonesians banter really well. They're hilarious people. Indonesia is the fourth most populated country in the world. Ain't that crazy? 17,000 islands, over 17,000 islands, 6,000 inhabited. So there's a lot of Indonesians in the world, and there's many of them here. And they know they live in paradise. And, for Balinese people specifically, they have their own dialect, but of course they speak Indonesian. And there's a different type of pride. So when they ask you where you're from, I know, especially if you're Black, that might feel triggering, like they're trying to other you. Depending on where you are in the world, that question can come across as demeaning. Here, it is so honest. It is so sincere. It's literally just like they're shocked by how vast people will travel to come experience the paradise that they call home. So Bali is that girl. Okay. But let's talk about a couple negatives because it is hard to avoid some of the many things that people can experience on their first visit if they have never been. The traffic is horrendous, which is why one of the first things that I said is if you don't need a motorbike, do not rent one. Yes, it's $30 a month or $5 a day, but don't get a Gojek, get a Grab driver. Those are two apps that will run your life on this island. Gojek is spelled Gojek. That app has everything. You can order pharmacy, medication, you can order food delivery, you can order cars, motorbikes, transportation services. And that app, you used to also be able to order massages. Oh, that was a good time back in the day. Like 2017 Bali was elite. That was my favorite era of Bali. Uh, anyways, I can imagine the massage feature was abused or misused in some way. So yeah, the app no longer offers it. But Airbnb experiences, you can actually order massages on there. And that's also nice because you could, if you don't have cash on you, you could pay by card, and that's always helpful. But yeah, so the traffic. I do not recommend, like, stay away from Canggu with a 10-foot pole. Canggu, which is the city, it's pronounced, oh, I guess you can call it a village, city village, Canggu. It's not Canggu, it's Canggu. And in the Bahasa Indonesia language, C is ch most of the time. And Chengu back in the day was that girl. She was the spot. This is where the digital nomads, the hungry, driven, young, hot surfers, entrepreneurs, like it was the place where if you were single, if you were ambitious, if you were motivated, if you were in shape, like it attracted some of the hottest people on, not I want to say in the world, but just everyone was beautiful. You're just walking out, everyone looks hot. And I think it was just a sexy place to exist in. When I pass through it now, because I never stay in Canggu anymore, when I pass through it now, it seems to keep up with that image. Mostly you'll see people in their 20s, like, young startup people, yeah, like models, but it's mostly 20s, maybe early 30s that make up the largest demographic. Of course, you don't have to fit that, but yeah, when one country specifically was having trouble in their country, a lot of people from that country came to Bali and they took over a lot of Canggu. So that also created a lot of tension, chaos. There were issues. Some of them were deported. Like it was a whole thing. So it's interesting because of Bali. Bali has pretty lenient I think for most countries, like it's pretty easy to get either a visa on arrival or to apply for a visa and get approved. So it makes for easy influx. And, Elizabeth Gilbert, her Eat, Pray, Love book, it's no surprise that that book probably helped with Bali's popularity. And then Instagram travel bloggers in like the 2015s, 2016s definitely helped to blow up Bali as well. Maybe I could be added to being a part of that problem because I came here so often and posted about it so often. And I've been hosting events here for 9 years. So I've brought maybe I would say well over 100, maybe closer to 150 women to this island. And yeah, it's been incredible just to take them around. Okay, so motorbikes, traffic, all of that chaos. The second thing that's kind of hard to ignore, I'll say, is the trash. And I know there's a lot of initiatives that are being built and done. Some are government led, some are people who live there. It's like they're organizing cleanups. But some people will say some of the beaches and some of just like the side roads, it's just I would call it like a lack of infrastructure and maybe education in those areas of like here's how trash should be disposed. And I think it's also tough because we as in tourists, people that come there that are not native to the island, have also pushed a lot of locals probably out of their land. And yes, the foreigners that buy land or lease land rather, because you could never own land in Indonesia, which I absolutely love that the government did that so that locals, no matter what, will always benefit. And I think that's an important lesson for other countries to like take care of your people first. And yeah, there can be harmony with the tourists and locals. But yeah, you'll see a lot of trash on the side of the road. And so that's kind of tough. And then third is, what was the third one? Uh, yeah, let me get a drink of tea. Traffic, trash, TT. Mm, mm. And then the airport. The airport, what's crazy is the airport is gorgeous. Every time I fly into Bali, it could be a month apart, something something has opened, a line has changed, an area has been developed. They are constantly advancing the airport and the arrival process, but I have to say the funniest time where I was like, "Oh wow, this is," I don't know, just it felt like like let me not even say that. Okay, so there was at one point where you're landing in Bali and they shut down Fast Track. So I would buy Fast Track. I'd buy it for all of my guests. It's where you have an airport concierge. They meet you at the tunnel. They guide you through immigration and they take you to your car, help you with your bags. But from landing to your car, you are escorted. And I would always buy that. And it cost about I think $30 for the arrival service, around 75 for arrival and transportation, which I mean, I think that's worth its weight in gold because it's just convenience. But there was a period where they took that away because of maybe some corruption. Some, airport workers were kind of saying, "Hey, I can get you up front. You just slide me a little change." And so it caused a little bit of not chaos, but there were parts where no one really knew what protocol was, and you can kind of pay off, certain people. And I'm sure the airport was like, "Nah, we're not doing that." So they shut it down and they disabled all fast track ability. And I was like, no. So if there were 20 planes landing that hour, you were going to wait in line for 3 hours before you saw your bags. And I, thank God it's not like that anymore. Things have been changed and updated. But when you got to the front desk, this was before they allowed you to do the visa online because that didn't exist yet. So you were buying your visa on arrival, and you get to the desk and you see they'll hand you a phone to type your email. And the phone, it's also like Indonesian keyboard. So you're also making mistakes because you're like, oh wait, I'm used to the US keyboard. And so I was like, oh, this is a 3 hour wait. Because you look at the line and you're like, it's 100 people. Like, pay the price, stamp the passport. But yeah, it was actually the phone, people manually typing in their email address into the officer's phone. And then your email, you would have to confirm in your email that you got, I don't know, a code. And so people needed to connect to Wi-Fi if they, so can you imagine? It was chaos for a bit. All of that said, I feel like it's no longer a negative anymore because you can now get visa on arrival. You can literally just search visa on arrival Bali. It'll lead you straight to the government site. It is about 35 US dollars. It lasts you 30 days. You can do the 60-day arrival. You can also do a social visa, which gives you 6 months. So even if you're here for 30 days, there are ways to extend to 60 days. So I do appreciate that there's a lot of ways that you can come to Bali, stay in Bali, explore Bali, short term, long term, and kind of figure it out. Um, People will say around Southeast Asia that they're cracking down on border runs and visa runs, and I think there will always be, like, if you're flying to Singapore, like let's say you were in Bali for 30 days and you're like, shoot, I want to stay for another month, but I have missed the cutoff to do the 60-day extension. So you fly to Singapore in the morning and then you fly back at night. That's suspicious. My border runs, I would actually go to Cambodia for a week. I would actually go check out Japan for a month. Like I would actually leave and go somewhere and actually enjoy myself. So I encourage you to like make your border or visa runs actual trips and vacations. I know you might be busy or you're like, "Oh, I don't have time. I don't feel like exploring right now," or whatever, at least do a weekend. And I think that'll help you with your case because I don't know how many visa on arrival stamps in my passport, and immigration hasn't batted an eye. And I will say it's probably because the entire 3 minute conversation, I'm speaking exclusively Bahasa Indonesia. And so I get to banter, and that banter gives me access to, oh, she's good. She just loves our country this much. And so when I tell you to speak the language or learn the language, it's not just for cool points. It's literally like you will have a better experience in Bali. And yeah, people will just appreciate that you're making that effort. And their face, oh, you speak Bahasa. Oh, never gets old. I've shared before, but I'll share it again in the description. I use preply.com. I have a 70% discount code in the video description. And yeah, basically, I think you can do a trial lesson for $3. If you don't like it, they'll give you your money back. So you really have nothing to lose. But I sometimes would do two tutors, one that is good with like really grammar, syntax, another that's just good with like explaining rules and more colloquial language. So I'm getting kind of like twofold. So yeah, I studied Bahasa for 4 years. I think at my height, I was doing 5 hours a week and casually doing about 2 hours a week or days a week. So yeah, you can be as aggressive as you want, but I think it's a beautiful, honorable, and respectful thing to do if you want to just have a better experience here. Okay. Another thing about Bali that is, of course, hard to ignore is the cost of living. Now, I'm mindful that to not use the word cheap because cheap is relative and it's also disrespectful. And I think when you look at the prices of America, what I'm realizing more, the US is built to help capitalists earn a lot of money, but also help everyone else pay a lot of money. So it costs a lot to live in the US, but you don't realize that the cost of most things that you pay for aren't the actual price. It's just there's like a monopoly on prices in the US. So whatever the company that has the most access, territory, power, whatever they charge, they will just price everyone out or buy everyone out. And so they monopolize the industry. And so you have no choice but to go with this one provider and pay their one price. And in Indonesia, it's just so much more humane. You don't have a monopoly on prices or services or industries. And yeah, it messes you up in a way because you're like, how did I ever pay over $100 for X service? Because you're like, wait, I've now if you went to 10 countries and 10 countries it cost you $20 to do this service or this thing, and you're like, how did I ever pay 100? For example, getting your nails done. I think there was a point where I was pretty regular with getting like acrylics, kind of, but this is when I was doing a lot of media. I was doing a lot of touring, speaking for Tony Robbins. So I was on stage and on camera a lot. So I'm like, I felt like I had an image to keep up. So I was getting my acrylics done and redone. And it got to a point where I was like, yeah, the service, I think it was like 85, and then you tip, and then you add color, and then gel X. And I don't know, by the end of it, you're like paying 150 something dollars. And I'm like, I feel like back when I was a teenager, this was a $25 service. So yeah, and you come here and you're like, oh, are, is this the final price or is this for just the color? So yeah, even like lash extensions, mine are all they've all fallen out. But yeah, many countries lash extensions cost like 20, 25, 30 US dollars. In the US, I don't think I've ever paid less than $200 for them. Like it was a premium service in the US. Granted, I also did like home service, but like baseline home service was like 200, maybe 250. And then with tip, I was paying over 300 to get lash extensions done at my home in the US. So yeah, stuff like that. I'm like, I cannot believe. And mind you, I'm happy to support, entrepreneurs and, your price is your price. But yeah, it's like they have to charge that much because it costs so much to live in that country. So yeah, here everything feels like much more humane in pricing and service in all of that. Another thing that's really cool about Bali is community, and I'll talk about Ubud for a second because I think Ubud is like the spiritual home of this country, and spiritual to a degree. You have to be mindful if you're a believer, if you're a Christian, there is a community that is spiritual but not Christian. So you have to be mindful of like what you're getting involved with, and just be discerning, because not everything will be for you. And I know that there's like a rabbit hole that you can go deep down in this constant search of self. And many people come here for their healing journey. And this is a very healing island. But what I've recognized is your healing needs boundaries. If you are constantly searching inward, you are never really living outward. So give yourself like a time limit and say, okay, I'm going to work on myself for this amount of time. And then I'm ready to integrate all of the lessons, all of the downloads, all of what I feel I've unpacked and uncovered. It's time to integrate that back into society. But some people come here and they heal indefinitely, and they're 8 years in, and it's like they're still finding themselves. And I think you have to be careful not to get so self absorbed that you are constantly feeling like you need to fix yourself. So have compassion and grace because there will be a lot of events, offerings, services for people that are broken. And you don't want to fall into that cycle or trap where you're never actually living and enjoying Bali. You're constantly working on yourself. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Another positive about Bali is the weather. It is an island, so similar to a lot of regions in Southeast Asia, wet and dry season. So rainy season in Bali typically doesn't happen until November, usually November to March. And when I say rainy season, I'm talking like torrential downpour for 2 hours and then it's like sunny for the rest of the day. So the torrential downpour is like actually quite, it's quite intense. You're just like, dang. But what I also like is that, yeah, Bali's torrential downpour is it's spotty. Like it happens and then it goes away. Rarely does it turn into floods like what happened recently, but that can happen as well. Bali also gets earthquakes, so be mindful of that. I think I've been here for three earthquakes and one volcano eruption. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's an island, and so um, yeah, you need to be mindful of that. It's obviously completely safe to be in on a regular basis and be around. And speaking of safety, this is probably one of the few places where if I found myself walking at 3 a.m. at night, I don't know, I would feel like it would be 3 p.m. in the daytime. I would have no qualms about, oh my gosh, like I'm not looking over my shoulder. I'm not thinking twice. If anything, there might be a motorbike driver that might pull over and say, "Can I take you home? Like, is everything okay? Like, do you need help?" And not the ones that say, "Bike, bike, motorbike, taxi, taxi." That's a different thing. But like a genuine concern of like, can I help? Um, and I was just walking. I'm staying near a beach, and I was walking. It's like a 10-minute walk to the beach, and this is a beach where I'm so happy for this area because no one is here. And I've told you about being in Bali. I also like to have like my solitude. And mind you, I'm meeting with a friend later today, but it's like I have capacity for one social outing per week. And so people not knowing that can think that like I'm constantly meeting up with people, but I love my solitude so much. And Stephen Bartlett made a video today on Instagram. Check him out. He's the host of the Diary of a CEO podcast. And he talked about being an ambivert, where you are energized by the right people, but then it requires deep amounts of solitude to just put yourself back out there. But when you have a genuine love for people, but it's the right people and the right energy that allow you to have extroverted tendencies. So yeah, I love to recharge. I love to walk to the beach. And I'm walking to the beach and there's like yeah, like five local men, and they're just doing the tickets for motorbike, parking. And I was getting ready to pay because I wasn't sure if this was like entry fee or whatever. Always happy to pay it. He's like, no, sis, no, sis, this is just for motorbike. And what's up, what's up? And so I just start speaking Bahasa Indonesian and we're bantering. And this guy, you would think that he just won the lottery. He was so joyful and so excited to just speak with me. And like, I could tell it was hard for him to say bye. And this is, Bapak is like, yeah, I don't know, he's in his 50s or 60s, but just the jolliest, round shaped body, but just the jolliest man. And I was like, I left that conversation like, what a what a beautiful time to be alive. I don't know. There's just this constant high of life that I feel talking to Balinese people because they have such a joy and energy about them. And it makes you feel like they drop a dose of positivity in you every time you engage with them. And, Thailand has the slogan, the land of smiles, but I think Bali actually wears that crown. I think Balinese people are slightly more smiley than Thai people. But granted, both are amazing choices. And I think that's why I have this beautiful dance where I get to go between Bangkok and Bali throughout the year. And yeah, I think it's going to be something that I cannot wait for the next year ahead because now that my stuff is officially moved out of the US, I would have this guilt of like, oh, I'm paying rent in the US. I better go check on my apartment, better go stay there a couple months, see that, my I had like one plant, check on my plant, but just pick up my mail, pick up my packages. So I had an obligation to travel back to the US, but never a desire. So now I'm like, yo, I can stay on this side of the world full time. and just go back and forth between Bangkok and Bali. And then in May is when rainy season, it's busy season in Bali, rainy season in Bangkok. And so then we go to Europe and we can be in Bosnia, Croatia, Montenegro. And I'm just like, man, we have figured it out. This is a good life. And it's pure coincidence that Bali, Bangkok, and Bosnia all start with B, but I feel like it's our flow for now, and it's what works. And it might not make sense to many people, and I'm okay with that because I think if you are chasing a certain amount of happiness, a certain level of fulfillment, you have to understand that most people at their baseline are frustrated, miserable, broke, unfulfilled, unsatisfied, triggered, traumatized. Like we are constantly carrying these negative emotions, and it's up to you to literally say, I'm going to break out of this cycle, this societal cycle and pattern that most people are struggling with, and do something different and choose a life that is going to benefit my happiness and my future. And I've constantly positioned myself to be like, I don't care if my life doesn't make sense. It makes sense to me, and that's all that matters. So yeah, it's a good life. And last thing I'll say about Bali is I think there's an energy. Maybe it's all islands, but energetically, you just feel like you can breathe again. And it's been, I don't know. Yeah, let me say this. There is a lot of chaos in the world. There is a lot of terror in the world. There's a lot of fear, violence, all the things that are happening in the world. And if you only focus on that, you will forget to stop and smell the roses. You will forget to watch the sunset over the water. You will forget that everyday people around the world have nothing but love and smiles for you. And Bali is a place where I want to live a long, fulfilling life, but I want to die in Bali. Let me die here. This is a place you're surrounded by greenery, jungle, nature, good people, good food, good energy, good weather. Let me die here. I'll be okay. I would be happy to spend my final days in Bali. And I think that's why you'll see there's an area called Seminyak. A lot of retirees are coming to Bali, and there's this huge international hospital that just went up. I think it's in the Nusa Dua area. But yeah, I can see why Bali also attracts a lot of elderly people because I can see they're like, listen, we worked hard and we're gonna spend our days just in the sun enjoying life. And if you are an entrepreneur and you are someone with a lot of goals, you have to also be mindful that you are you are not letting the allure and the weather and the fun and the cafes and the food and all the fun things to do in Bali, you're not letting it topple your habits and your goals. You could very easily, like, this is an adult playground. Bali feels like an island where no adults are here. Like the kids are out of school and like the kids have an island. It just feels like you can get away with no, I don't want to say that because listen, do not bring your drugs here. I don't know if I need to even say that. I feel like the community that I'm building here, y'all don't do drugs, but this is a place that will lock you up. Do not bring drugs here. Weed is not legal here. Weed is legal in Thailand. So it's a very different, it's only an ocean away, but very different in terms of laws. But yeah, I feel like it's just such a happy-go-lucky place. It's very easy for you to rest and forget about your goals. So Stefan and I mean, we had been coming here for 3 years now together. And so we were building two companies, both of the times that all the times that we were coming here. So it was really hard for us to get in a working rhythm because we'd go to the beach, lay out in the sun, eat really good food, take get the itis, take a nap, like then it's evening and we're like, okay, we'll try again tomorrow because the evening we'll watch our show. So you can get into a really cozy or comforting cycle here. So you just have to be mindful with that. But yeah, y'all, this is my overall review of Folly, 10 out of 10. Yeah, I think if there's anything I left out, drop a question in the comments and I'll answer it or make another video about it. But yeah, it's a great landing place. If you are figuring out what is next, this makes a great spot. And yeah, if you want to understand, like, okay, what would it look like to actually budget for what's next, to why do I keep forgetting the list? Oh yeah, the country matrix you don't need. But you're trying to figure out, okay, how much would it actually cost to live in Bali for a month or 6 months? Like, what is the paperwork? Who do I need to speak to immigration wise? Yeah, what does that look like? And what kind of hobbies can I do here? Paddleball, gym memberships, community stuff, events, all that stuff. I invite you to check out passporttopeace.com. There's a workshop that I'm hosting in, yeah, like 6 days. Think there's 5 tickets left. Would love to have you. And yeah, it's going to be a good time. So you can go to any of these links and this one as well for all the rest of the stuff. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.